Now, let me ask you, if you don't mind, let's go back to when you started your own mortgage company until you had that issue. When you started your mortgage company, what were some of the forms of creative financing that you guys were doing? Because I've heard many different forms. What were some of the ones you guys did?
You know, the thing is, a lot of people talk about the liar loans,
Yeah.
which you were mentioning. The problem with the liar loans is that typically the person still has to have decent credit.
You come on no income, no assets.
Right.
You still need to have a 720 or 680.
Right. So if I've got some guy that works at Tire Kingdom who's got a 590, he's not getting a liar loan. But what I can do is I can get him a subprime loan if I can prove his income. So we would change his W-2s and pay stubs to say he made enough money, and we would fake his down payment. So I created banks online. I would make a website that said Bank of Ybor. And you could go to the website and looked at it. It looked like a legitimate small bank. And I had bank statements. And so if the underwriter asked for the bank statements, because you need to prove you have had your down payment in the bank for 90 days. So this guy who works for Tire Kingdom, who has bad credit and has been at 3 different jobs in the last 2 years, we would either fix his credit, fix his W-2s so that he made enough money, or we would say he worked at a place where he didn't work, but we said he worked there for 5 years, and some friend of mine owned the business and would say that, and I'd come up with the W-2s and pay stubs.
Got it.
They would verify his employment. Then we would verify his down payment was in Bank of Ybor. Well, there is no Bank of Ybor. So if they said, well, we want bank statements, okay, we'd send them. I had original bank statements. I'd color bank statements. They look perfect. We send them to underwriting. If underwriting called to verify it, someone would answer the phone. Bank of Ybor, how may I help you? Sure, hold on, let me get you Jennifer.
You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, we'd get on the phone.
And the
Okay, let me pull
person
that
Bank
up.
of Ybor is internally working for you.
No, there is no Bank of Ybor.
No, I totally get it. But the person that would answer this is Bank of Ybor, they're in your office.
Yes.
They would answer Bank. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Okay. And back, they're typing as if they're checking to see if this guy's a real guy. Okay.
They fax over a verification of deposit if they have to. I mean, it seemed very legitimate to Countrywide, who would then lend $190,000 on a house that was worth $40, and we'd maybe put 10 into it. So you end up making $100,000 to $150,000 for each loan. And this guy's borrowing $1 million like this, so we're making a chunk of money.
So the other part, you said the what do you call it, the whiteout, the whole whiteout thing, which was very big. I mean, that's what you did with Eagle, right? You learned the one time, don't worry about it, just do a whiteout and change it. There was forgery, which you white out, put the signature in. There was what you just did right now, what you talked about. There was many different creative methods to getting financing done. What were some other methods that maybe you guys did or you heard about that was very unique that you don't quite often hear out there in the mortgage industry?
The stuff that I did is it's so over the top. You can't. It's like one of the things I did was to obtain financing was I would satisfy the loans on houses. So I buy a house it's worth $200,000. It's got a $190,000 mortgage. I'd create a false satisfaction. And when you borrow money from Bank of America and you get a mortgage on your house and it gets paid off, you paid it off. How does public records know it was paid off? Bank of America sends a satisfaction of mortgage saying, hey, Patrick borrowed $200,000, but he paid it off. Here's the satisfaction proving he paid it off. And then they record that, and now it no longer exists. It's there, but anybody who searches the title can see that that mortgage has been satisfied. The question is, when that document arrives, does anybody ever call at Public Records? Does anyone at Public Records call Bank of America to verify that they mailed in that document? And the answer is no.
Till today,
as far as I know. I mean, I've talked to a couple title guys. It was a couple of years ago. I talked to a guy in prison that worked at a title company. He said, "Oh, absolutely not. Nobody's verifying those because it's a recording system." So what I would do is I would borrow money, $200,000 on a piece of property. Then I would create a satisfaction of mortgage from the lender. Let's say Mortgage Warehouse, for instance. So I create a satisfaction of mortgage from Mortgage Warehouse. And I've done them from everybody. Bank of America, Wachovia, Countrywide, SunTrust, tons of them. So I would then go downtown. I'd say, hey man, listen, they mailed me this, but I called them and asked them what it was. They said they were supposed to mail it to you, and public records would say, oh, you're right, this happens sometimes. And they would go ahead and record it. And so the document gets mailed back to the person that created it. Well, of course, that's countrywide. But they don't know. There's 40,000 countrywide addresses out there, probably not, probably let's say 400. They don't know where they're mailing it. It says return to sender countrywide, and then it's got an address. Well, I just give an address to a vacant house. So they'd mail it to a vacant house. I'd go a couple days later and pull it out. I've got it. It's recorded. Now when I call the lawyer's title and say, hey, can you pull the title on my house to see if anything shows up, they pull the title and they go, yeah, you don't have anything on your house. Does a mortgage show up? No, there's no mortgages. Great. I then turn around and I go to SunTrust Bank or whoever I want, and I say, look, I need to borrow $200,000 on my house. They order a title. Their title comes back and says, nothing's on, no title on your, no mortgage on your house. Great, I need to borrow $200,000. I go, sure, no problem. They pull my credit. They lend me the money. I borrow the money. I borrowed $1 million, like 5 mortgages on my own personal residence, like $1 million on a house that honestly wasn't worth $200,000. I borrowed one point, was it 900,000? About 900,000 on a house. Another one, I borrowed about 400,000 or 500,000 on a few different houses that were only worth me 100. Got 3 or 4 mortgages on them, just by satisfying the loan, or by doing shotgunning, which is when you satisfy the loan on a house. So that I don't owe anything on this house. I probably do, but I satisfy the loan. So what I do is I turn around and I go to 4 different lenders or 5 different lenders, and I apply for loans at all the lenders at the same time. They all search the title for the house. There's nothing on the house. There's no mortgage showing up on the house, and they all lend me money. Well, they mail in their documents. So when they arrive, 2 arrive on Monday, 1 arrives on Tuesday, 1 arrives on Friday. All the clerk does is record it. They scan it, shows up, they scan it, they show it. It doesn't matter if there's 5 different mortgages showing up. It's not illegal. The clerk it's not her responsibility to say, hey, this is odd, there's 5 mortgages on this house. The point is that every closing I go to, I walk away with a check for $150,000. So now I've borrowed $600,000 on this house that's worth 150 or 200, and it's called shotgunning. So now I've got 600,000, I deposit in the bank, I pull out all the money within a month or 2. I don't ever have to make a payment because I just take off, because I probably did it in somebody else's name or some fictitious person. I've done that. When I was on the run, I did that over and over again.
So it's easy $400,000 you're making.
Oh yeah, it's like $1 million. I did 1.3 million. I did 900,000 one time. I did 400,000. When I took off on the run, I always say this, I had no money. I had about 80 grand. But to be on the run with 80 grand, that's nothing, the way I was spending money at the time. So I went straight to Atlanta and I got like $400,000. I rented a house, satisfied the loan, borrowed 400,000, pulled the money out of the bank, took off. But I didn't borrow it in my name, obviously.